Keep yourself in the loop of everything football on the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast. The latest news on and off the field, be it college football, Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, Pac-12, ACC to the NFL. We've got you covered. Listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast.
Hello, all you football fans, and welcome to the GSMC Football Podcast, brought to you once again by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, as always, Jeff Malinoff, and with me is my partner in crime, Mark Souza. We fight crime when we're not doing podcast, so watch out for us.
I don't fight crime.
You don't?
No.
Your parents didn't die in an alleyway and you wanted to get revenge, so you put on a Batman suit. And
That did not happen to date.
No, not yet. Well,
Nope.
give it time.
Well, that's really mean to say about my family.
I wasn't. Never mind.
That's really jacked up.
Anyways, welcome. We have a lot to talk about. We got Monday Night Football between the Panthers and the Saints, one of the ugliest games I've ever watched. And we're going to go on through the list here. But we'll just start off real quick with the Saints and Panthers. 12-9 was the final score. Ugly game.
Mm-hmm. Very ugly.
Ugly. Putrid. Probably one of the worst games I've ever watched.
Really? Of all time?
No.
There's a couple worse games this actual weekend.
I've actually the Eagles versus the Bengals a couple years ago, and Don McNabb was the QB. They tied, and it was like even the announcer said, if any game where neither team deserved to win, it was this game. That's what he actually said. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, that shows it.
12-9.
Yeah,
very low-scoring NFL game by any metric.
We were way off on our scores, weren't we?
Yeah.
I said like 42-21. What'd you say?
I said 30-27.
We expected multiple touchdowns.
Yes. I definitely was a little bit surprised because what I thought was going to happen was both offenses having a good game, and with the defenses struggling a little bit. I didn't realize that the two division rivals, that maybe the defenses would have the upper hand here because they've played so many times, and maybe that was an oversight by us.
Yeah, I think we missed some key things, definitely, and I think watching this game, Drew Brees just did not look like MVP status to me.
Yeah, he's been going down for quite a few weeks now. I would say maybe the Dallas game was the first game, but even last week against the Bucs, he hasn't looked like the MVP like he did, I would say, the first couple months of the season. I would say before December hit. He was probably our MVP a few weeks ago. It was between him or Mahomes. I still think he's in it, but he's lost a lot of steam. But then again, so is Mahomes, right?
Yeah, true. And I think how these two played this week put some serious questions into what's going to happen during the playoffs. Don't you think? Like, this puts in some serious, maybe not ramifications, but just question marks on who really is great when it comes to the postseason, who's going to make the Super Bowl. Because I really don't know who's going to make it to the Super Bowl now. Like, I thought, the Saints and Chiefs, like this looked like destiny in the making. Now, there's huge question marks on every team right now that's like competing for a bye week, let alone wild card.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is pretty what's the word I'm looking for? Interesting, to say the least.
We've seen a lot of NFL teams kind of struggle here in the last few weeks. It doesn't seem like anybody's a good team, really. I know that sounds crazy, but
everyone played terrible.
Everybody has either been exposed or has been beaten in the last 3 weeks, 3 weeks. We saw everybody's outlook on the Chiefs, the Rams, the Saints has all changed. Everybody's opinion on the Patriots has changed. The Steelers changed.
Nothing is the same.
I mean, I would say the only two teams that maybe have maintained or boosted their outlook is the Bears, maybe the Texans too. They did have that one slip up, but other than that, they've been on a tear. But man, yeah, it's looking like I guess this is the time in the season where it's never looked more wide open than it does today.
Yeah, definitely. It's a very interesting, to say the least.
Like, I don't have confidence in any one of these teams at all. I mean, I would say the Bears and the Texans are probably playing the best, but neither one of those teams is probably going to be the number 1 seed, maybe not even the number 2 seed. So it's like, how confident are you going to be in a team that doesn't have home field advantage throughout the playoffs? We all know how important that is in the NFL. So what was your biggest takeaway from last night when you looked at the Saints?
I don't know what to think of this. Like, everyone that is electric on the team, even Kamara had a bad game, and Michael Thomas didn't have that best of a game. Everyone struggled, and it puts at serious concern for, is this team ready for when the lights are bright in the primetime level of postseason play? Can this team even make it past the divisional round? That was my thought, because if they can only score 12 points against let's face it, a not very good Panthers team, what are they going to do against the Bears if they play them? Like, there's huge question marks.
Do you think that it's the case, though, of just maybe the Panthers knowing the signals or the play calls?
Yeah, but, it was, but the thing is, Breeze threw into questionable coverage as well. There was some questionable decision-making by Breeze also, where I don't know what to think of it,
Some questionable decision-making. Yeah, I don't know. Like, it was interesting to see Luke Kuechly mic'd up last night to see how he really had a feel. He really knew exactly what was coming. Like, he studied for the test, right? Like, he was telling his teammates, just listen for my cue, listen for my calls. I'll tell you where you need to be, and things like that. And it's like, are the Saints just that predictable, or is Luke Kuechly just on a different level in terms of preparation?
Yeah.
Because for me, it seems like I feel like the Saints might be a little bit lazy. I feel like they went into that game a little bit lazy. Does it feel like that?
Yeah, it did. It feel like, we got this in the bag, right?
They weren't very creative with their play calls. They weren't very innovative with how they were going to try and score. And, credit to them, they won. Don't get me wrong. They won the football game. That's the goal. But, they didn't give themselves the easiest time out there. That game could have been much easier. Saints defense played really well, obviously. But, obviously, the one score they gave up was a trick play, Other than that, they keep the Panthers out of the end zone all game, and they don't give up another point on offense, actually, because they gave up the 7 there, and then they gave up the 2 on the attempt. But they didn't give up. The Saints defense did not give up any other points other than a trick halfback pass by Christian McCaffrey. And you got to think in a game like that, the Saints should win that game by 3 or 4 touchdowns, right? Like, if their defense gives up 7 points, you're thinking, okay, this is a blowout. And I don't care where they play, road, home, it doesn't matter. But it wasn't the case last night. Something's a little bit off with the Saints. They couldn't get Michael Thomas going.
Something is
Kamara had
off.
a relatively good game. I'll give him credit for that. But other than that, I mean, the Saints are going to have to. This is a time of the year where these teams have been exposed. The Chiefs, their offense doesn't look so great all of a sudden. Like the Rams. The Rams have been stifled the last few games on offense when it looked like they were going to set some NFL records. We're talking about the Chiefs and the Rams. Remember when they played that game not too long ago and it was, 54-51 or 53-50, whatever the score was?
Yeah.
That wasn't that long ago. And now these offenses don't seem like they're nearly that good.
No, not at all.
So I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see.
A lot can happen, huh?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see which one of these teams will be able to go back to the drawing board, evaluate themselves, and then go forward and put out a better product out there when it comes to offense. Because these three teams that we're talking about, they rely on their offense. If they do not have good offense performances in the playoffs, they will not win a Super Bowl. Whereas a team like the Bears, maybe the Texans, or the Cowboys, maybe those teams, you can see them just relying on their defense heavily and just doing enough on offense. You cannot see that with the Saints, with the Chiefs, and of course with the Rams. So, good defensive players on each of those teams? Yes. Defenses going to carry those teams to championships? No. So we'll see them go back to the drawing board.
Yeah, this is definitely a very big, we got to move on, how we going to adapt to this, how we going to move on from this situation. And like I said, who knows when the playoffs times arrive, what's going to change? Are they going to change the play calls? Who knows what's going to happen? But the bottom line is, overall, you got to look at who's making the playoffs. Obviously, the Saints are, and the Panthers aren't. So the Saints are going to need to improve. Panthers, not so much.
Panthers have been on a free fall. I think Cam Newton's hurt. I know we talked about this yesterday. I don't know, man. I feel like maybe they need to shut him down. What do you think?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's time to have him go to see a specialist for his shoulder. Obviously, something wrong with his shoulder. Maybe get some surgery, and he'll be back in time by next season, week 1. He should be good as new. That's what that's what they should do. However, they probably won't, because that's how the Panthers roll, apparently.
They should shut him down. I think we're going to see him get shut down. I don't know. Maybe not, but their season's over. I mean, they started off so well. They looked like they were for sure a playoff team. Just a month ago, they looked like they were cashing in that ticket to go to the playoffs, but it's obviously
talk about a huge change, right?
Oh, yeah.
Who knew that's what was going to happen? And looking at all of this, do the Panthers bounce back next season, or do you think they're in a rebuilding mode?
They probably should rebuild.
I think
but
so
at
too.
the same time, I don't know. They don't really have a great team, right? They don't have an old team either, I don't feel like. Maybe Kuechly's a little older, but their problem is Cam Newton. Their problem is solely Cam Newton, because we've seen a quarterback who's won an MVP and he's not gotten any better. In fact, he's gotten worse. And the injuries are starting to mount up for him, and he's becoming less effective running the football. And let's be honest, if he cannot add 500 to 600 yards a season on the ground with his legs, he's just not going to be successful. He hasn't been successful as a pocket passer. He doesn't have the required accuracy. He's not the best quarterback at pre-snap reads. He's much more of a a reactionary quarterback. He doesn't proactively see coverages happen or make decisions in his head before he snaps the ball. And I think if he can't run the football, that severely limits him as a player, as a quarterback. And I feel like the Panthers just kind of have a problem. And it's what do you do with him? Because he's your franchise quarterback. He is a guy that is your franchise. I mean, when you think of the Panthers, you think of Cam Newton. But at the same time, have we already seen the best of him? If we're only seeing a decline, then you might need to move on.
Now, that's something interesting to think about, because this guy is a former MVP. And that is something that people don't take for granted. They're like, okay, this guy's an MVP. We cannot lose him. You know what I mean? And I think that's a serious thing to think about. But bottom line is, maybe you're right. Maybe they do look for someone else on this. Maybe on the side. You know what I mean? Just not look right away. Maybe draft a quarterback in the late draft picks, develop him behind Cam Newton. But bottom line is, he's going to be their guy for a long time until he retires. Because remember, he took the team 15-1. They went to Super Bowl 50. He won the MVP that year. That whole one season changed everything. If he didn't get that MVP, if he didn't take them 15-1, maybe they get rid of him now. But since he won that MVP, since he became the guy, then you can't get rid of him. That's just how the world works. And I don't know how else to say it, but overall, you just got to look at the fact that maybe you're right. Cam Newton might be done, but we don't know for sure. Because we've seen this happen where players have these downhill slumps and rise up to the occasion later on.
Yeah, I just don't see it with him just because he's not accurate. And I don't know in your 30s that you become an accurate quarterback. That doesn't seem like that will happen. But we'll see. I think the Panthers should shut him down, though, because if he really does need his shoulder looked at, possible operation on it, I think that needs to be done sooner than later so he can get back to football activities for next year. Because, every few weeks, a month or so that you can shave off of that recovery, like it doesn't, if he's only going to be out for a few months, but the quicker that he can start recovering and strengthening and doing all that is better. Panthers don't need to win any more of these games. They really don't. But on the flip side,
honestly, winning games would hurt their draft position. That's all that matters.
Speaking of winning games, though, Breeze and Peyton, they are now number 2 all time in terms of quarterback head coach duos, and they are now only behind Brady and Belichick. They just passed Marino and Shula on the all-time list. Do you think that they need to win another Super Bowl between these two guys to truly be spoken about as greats? Or do you think that they can just keep having a couple more years like this?
Shula and Marino considered greats. They didn't win a Super Bowl together.
That's true.
Shula won a Super Bowl. Marino didn't. He's still considered one of the greatest. And Breeze has his Super Bowl.
But Marino, some people have very wide views of Marino, right? Because he didn't win one. It's like,
true.
Some people say he's the best quarterback of all time. Some people say there's no way he can be the best quarterback of all time without winning a Super Bowl. So it's like very divided when it comes to that. But it is weird to think that these two guys, Peyton and Breeze, they've just been so good for so long, yet we don't really think about it. They've kind of been the Brady and Belichick of the NFC.
Well, they've always,
but they haven't won as many titles as Brady Belichick.
That's the problem right there. They won 1 Super Bowl in 2009, not 5 Super Bowls in a matter of 18 years.
That's true.
It's all about the hardware, isn't it, when it comes down to it? If you have more hardware, you're remembered more. Look at Montana. He's considered one of the greatest of all time. He won 4 Super Bowls. And then you look at...
Never lost in the Super Bowl.
Never lost in the Super Bowl either. That's a huge thing.
Brady's lost multiple times, and that's why some people say he's not the best.
Yeah. It's all about how successful you are.
Isn't it a funny argument?
Yeah, it is.
And then somebody says, well, why isn't Terry Bradshaw the best? Terry Bradshaw, man.
Yeah, but people really don't think about him as the greatest.
Why not? He won 4.
Yeah, but
Never lost.
Yeah, but I don't know. He just didn't have that. I don't know why. Because you have an interesting point there. Mm-hmm. But bottom line is,
the funny thing is that they've all lost, right? Like, they've all lost. Like, whether it's a Super Bowl or
a playoff game.
Yeah, like, what about the years that Montana didn't win the Super Bowl, but his team got eliminated in the playoffs? You know what I mean? Like, they lost.
There was multiple occasions. There was tons of occasions that happened. Mm-hmm. But people don't remember the failures. They remember the success. If you have success, they will forgive your failures. If you don't succeed,
isn't
then
that
your
kind
failures...
of funny, though, that that people say, like, oh, he lost in a Super Bowl, but, like, that's not detrimental to another quarterback who lost in the playoffs? You know what I mean? Like, isn't that funny? Like, oh, well, Brady's lost multiple times in the Super Bowl, but
if you win,
Montana never lost, but Montana lost a bunch of playoff games before the Super Bowl.
It goes like this. You win, people will remember your accomplishments. But if you don't win that trophy, your failures will be remembered more than anything else. Marino has some amazing records and amazing games, but people only remember him for not winning a Super Bowl. It's all about success, and it will always be about success. Regardless of how you played in the regular season, regardless of how you play in playoffs, if you get to that Super Bowl and you win a Super Bowl, you are remembered for being a winner.
Mm-hmm.
So regardless, if you could throw 100 touchdowns in the regular season, you lose in the first round in the playoffs, you're not remembered for your 100 touchdown season.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about success. Regardless how you play in the regular season, it's all about how you do in the playoffs. It will always be that way. Any sport.
You know what it's all about? It's all about audiobooks, man. That's what it's all about. And where can you listen to audiobooks? I'll tell you where. There's no better place to listen than with Audible. Get your first audiobook free along with 2 selected Audible original titles and exclusive fitness programs when you start a 30-day trial. So take the time to listen on Audible. Visit audible.com/GSMC book or text GSMC book to 500-500 to get started today. And I'll tell you, you have to go right now. Go to audible.com, start that 30-day free trial. Audible.com/GSMC book. Or, again, you can just text GSMC book to 500-500 to get started today.
What happens to your decision-making when you drink? Well, after one drink, you feel confident. A few more, and calling your ex at 1 a.m. seems like a great idea. And you're pretty sure the secret to a great taco is 4-day-old macaroni. The bottom line, drunk you doesn't make great decisions. So you're risking a DUI or worse if you count on him to get you home. Plan before you party. Get home safe. Brought to you by Washington Target.
Welcome back to the GSMC Football Podcast. We talked about Monday Night Football. We talked about the legacies of Breeze and Peyton. And we did a little bit talking about how every team's been exposed. But let's dive in further to that. Because we only dived into mainly the Saints. But let's talk about like the Rams and the Chiefs, as well as even the Patriots we can talk about. There's a lot of teams with holes in their teams that were exposed a lot this week. And the bigger question is, what team has the easiest time to regroup and get back into their winning ways and their dominant ways?
That's a good question. I guess it's something that will be answered in the next few weeks. It is kind of weird, though, because it feels like the end of the season's coming up so fast, and so many teams have more questions than they've had all season, which brings an interesting dynamic to this year. But, you know, like we alluded to earlier, seems like every team has either lost or been exposed in the last 3 weeks. So it's like, what do you make of it? So I guess we talked about the Saints. Where do you want to start? You want to go with the Rams?
Let's do Rams first, since they had a trouble Sunday Night Football matchup against the Eagles.
I think the Rams, I think it's a Sean McVay thing, to be honest. I think Jared Goff is a decent quarterback. I don't know if he's in the same class as a guy like Rodgers or Brady and those guys, but I would say definitely not. But the fact is that that offense has been churning and been playing really well up until lately, and you got to ask yourself why. Todd Gurley, Brandon Cooks, Robert Woods, you know, they did lose Cooper Kupp, but that doesn't explain everything. And for me, I just feel like teams have caught up to the Rams. I don't know if it's just been all the film that's out there of them, but Like the Eagles had a really good defensive game plan against the Rams. The Bears obviously had a really good defensive game plan to pair with some really good defensive players. Mm-hmm. But like for me, when I watch the Rams, I see a team that has not adjusted to the defenses. I see a team that they're still trying to. The Rams are like they try to get it all in every play. You know what I mean? Like when you watch them play earlier in the year, they try to get it all on every play. They don't just take what the defense gives them a lot, and that has really been a problem for them the last couple games and has really exposed some of their flaws.
Yeah, and maybe it's the Nick Foles effect also. Nick Foles is just that kind of guy.
I don't know. I don't think so. Nick Foles, no, I don't think so. He's not really helping the defense.
I was joking mainly.
I know. But, I mean, I don't know. What do you see with the Rams?
You're right. There is a lot of holes, and the thing is, maybe they're forcing things too much. Maybe they're trying to make big plays too often and not being maybe... it's not very often you say a team is not conservative enough, but I think that's what you can say with the Rams. They sometimes try to do too many things happen too often, and where sometimes you just got to go with the flow and go slow rather than go 100 miles an hour like that each drive. Mm-hmm. And maybe it's wrong. Maybe the Eagles just figured them out. I'm not sure, but maybe it's time to change the playbook a little where you're not trying to score a touchdown every play. Maybe instead you burn the clock, take some time, tire the defense, and then go for those big plays. If you just keep going for big plays, you're not tiring the defense.
Yeah, and it seems like they just don't – like they'll get 5 or 6 yards with Gurley, and then they'll pass on the next play. And it's like sometimes you just got to keep like pounding the ball a few plays in a row, set up the defense a little bit. And I think that's the next step in Sean McVay and his coaching, because we saw him after the Bears game, and he said, we have to go back and like reevaluate some things. And it's like they didn't really. I didn't see any adjustments made from the Bears game to the Eagles game. So I'm interested in seeing what happens. But the thing is that their next 2 games are against the Cardinals and the 49ers. Like, that's not really going to tell us anything. But we can at least see if their offense is back on track, at least functioning at a decent
rate. It most likely will be, because those 2 defenses are not as good. Mm-hmm. But when they play team, they might play the Bears. They might play another high defense team, maybe even the Cowboys. Who knows?
So, what about the Chiefs? What's their issues?
Defense, man. That defense is, and losing Kareem Hunt is huge.
Yeah, I think Kareem Hunt for sure.
That's the obvious selection, and they don't know how to move on without him. You could see them trying to do the same things they did with Hunt, but it's not working with Spencer Ware or whoever else is playing. And that is a huge problem when you can't adapt to who is on your lineup. Because they had Kareem Hunt. They took him for granted almost because they keep doing the same things, like I said, and it's not working because only Kareem Hunt can do Kareem Hunt-like things. They have to adapt to doing their offense without an elite running back. And I don't think they have done that yet.
Their running back play was good last game against the Chargers. Mm-hmm. But, yeah, there are just times where they get kind of bogged down a little bit. That offense is different because it's not often that your tight end is your best player, and theirs is. Kelsey's their best player. For sure. Tyreek Hill's good.
Tyreek Hill's been struggling with his foot. That's a big issue as well. He's not been utilized as much. And Patrick Mahomes now only has Travis Kelce really to throw to.
Yeah, Hill is good, but he's a beneficiary of players around him, where Kelce is just that ultimate mismatch. Mm-hmm. So I feel like he's going to have to, yes, he's been one of the more consistent players in the league, but I think that the Chiefs' offense will struggle if Kelce doesn't have big games. I really do. He has to be involved big time. Yeah, I don't know. For them, their defense has been bad all year, but I think that with them, they have to get back to being an elite offense, because with their team, the way that their team is set up, having an elite offense is easier for them to do at this point than having a good defense. Because they can't change their personnel right now, right? Like, we're in the middle of the season. The Chiefs' defense is what it is. It won't be good. It could be average. It could be below average.
But their offense replaces that. They double their offense.
Their offense can be elite. Their offense can be otherworldly, right? Mm-hmm. Like, it can, because Mahomes might have the best skill set of any quarterback in the NFL because of his combination of running and throwing the football. And then you got Kelsey, who has the ability to be the best mismatch in the game.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you could argue that he's the biggest mismatch in the NFL.
Right. And like right now, the first seeds are Kansas City and New Orleans. But we forget, and then we talk about the Rams. But the
Those
others
teams are so helped, though, by if those teams are locked in as the 1 seeds, I think that they both will make it all the way because of the home field. Those are two great home
we're
field
forgetting about
advantages.
another second seed team, and that's the Houston Texans, who might be the team with the most
What
momentum.
about the Chargers, too? I'm still thinking
Well,
about
the
them.
Chargers are the second seed. That's why I bring them up. And as of right now, they're the second seed.
Then the Chiefs and the Chargers cannot be 1 and 2.
I said Texans. I meant Texans. Sorry.
Okay.
I meant Texans. The Texans are the 2 seed at the moment. I don't like that, how they can't be. I understand why they're not this 1 and 2 seed, but I always figure that maybe sometimes.
One of those teams is probably going to play the Steelers. The Chargers or the Chiefs. One of those teams will play the Steelers or the Patriots in the first
Here
round
is
of
the
playoffs.
order of the playoffs as of right now, with 2 weeks remaining. Chiefs and Texans with a bye, and then in the AFC, it'd be Baltimore at New England and Los Angeles Chargers at the Pittsburgh Steelers.
So wait, New England is 3 or 4?
I believe New England is 3 because they have a home field advantage in the wild card.
So then if New England is 3, they'd play the Ravens.
Yes, Baltimore at New England. That's what I said.
Baltimore at New England.
Yeah.
And then the Chargers at Pittsburgh.
Yeah, because the Chargers didn't win the division, they had to play away, which is not a big deal for them, in my opinion.
They just played Pittsburgh and beat them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We'll see what happens. I kind of think how it is right now is the way that it's going to end. I think the Texans will get the number 2 seed.
Yeah.
You're going to say something?
I completely blanked, but bottom line is we're going to the NFC. That's what I was going to. Moving to the NFC, we got Minnesota at Chicago and Seattle at Dallas. Mm-hmm. And now my question to you is, which of the wild card teams do you think is a bigger threat to the bye week teams?
Which of the wild card teams?
Yeah, between Baltimore, New England, Los Angeles Chargers, and Pittsburgh, which one is the bigger threat to the Chiefs or Texans?
Oh, we're going back to the AFC?
We're just going to 1 seed and 2 seed type of stuff.
I mean, right now I'd say the Chargers are the.
I totally agree. 100%.
I don't think the Patriots are. I don't think they're going to.
The Patriots are a shadow of their former self.
I know we say that, and every year they just end up in the. They've been in 7 straight AFC title games. 7. So it's like, I'm sure we've had this conversation, or people before us have had this conversation about them, and then they just do what they do, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the Chargers, to me, look like they're the most balanced team.
They
in the
might
AFC.
They might be the best team in football. You can arguably say at the
They're the
moment.
most balanced team.
Yeah. 11-3 speaks for itself. And right now, we always say defense wins championships. Texans and Chargers may have the best defenses right now, playoff contending wise, and the Bears, of course. But I'm saying AFC at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
So, but now going into the NFC, do you think the Bears are the biggest threat to the Rams or the Saints? Or is it?
Yeah.
Or is it?
Yeah, the Bears.
Yeah. But if the Bears win, they
Because
probably
the
will
Bears-
face the second seed.
I say the
Rams.
Bears are the biggest threat to one of those top teams in the NFC because their defense is great, but their offense can be good. Like, it just depends on the day for them. They have a really good
Mitchell
offensive
Trubisky
mind.
has exploded in some games. People forget that.
And Nagy's an offensive coach, and he's a good coach. So, like, I trust their offense to show up more than I trust a lot of these teams' defenses to show up.
I have to say, this is a nice, fresh playoff picture than we've seen in the past. Definitely some fresh faces. It's nice to see. Chargers are in it. Texans have been in it a couple of years in a row, but this is a completely different Texans team than it has been in the past. And Bears, of course. Minnesota is still in the playoffs, but they are not what they used to be. Cowboys in Seattle, same thing. But it's just nice to see fresh matchups. Maybe not fresh matchups, but fresh faces in different seedings. Instead of seeing the Patriots in first all the time, we have the Chiefs, who have been like 9-0 before and not make the playoffs at one point. And now the Chiefs have kept this momentum going. They've won games, and I've always said Andy Reid's going to choke it somehow. But this is not his fault. It's just injuries and arrests and releases. That's not his control. Mm-hmm. So I have a feeling that Andy Reid might be unlucky going into this playoff picture and might even lose in the divisional round, to be completely honest with you.
Maybe.
Yeah. But right now, any of these teams I could see winning the Super Bowl. Honestly.
Mm-hmm.
These teams, each of these teams that are in this playoffs right now have made a run in the regular season and where they look like they can beat the best.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think the Ravens can.
Their defense has struggled, true, but at some point
their defense hasn't struggled. Their defense is number one.
Yeah. Well, what I'm trying to say is,
the Ravens with Lamar Jackson are not going to win a Super Bowl. Sorry.
I'm sorry, they won one with Trent frickin' Dilfer.
You're right. And when their defense was good then, they were probably the best defense of all time.
Yeah. But
now, Baltimore has the number one defense right now, but it wasn't nearly as good as that defense. That Ray Lewis team, Ed Reed, no.
Ed Reed wasn't on that team.
Really?
He wasn't, no. Charles Woodson was.
Interesting.
Yeah, that was 2000.
Ed
Reed was on the 2001 Miami Hurricanes.
Interesting. Anyways, back to the actual point. This Ravens team, you really think they could win 3 games and make it to the Super Bowl and win a 4th?
I mean, anything is possible. Cameron Garnett screams it at us every single time we see ESPN.
I don't think anything is possible. Within reason, yes. But, nah, I will strongly say that the Ravens do not have a chance of winning the Super Bowl, even if they make the playoffs.
Yeah.
It would take some crazy thing to happen.
I don't know.
Lamar Jackson would have to literally outduel like Mahomes, Ben, Brady for a rookie quarterback.
He just has to outrun them in theory.
Mm-hmm. He does. Teams like that get exposed.
Hey, we've seen crazier things happen, dude.
I don't think so.
I don't know, the 17-0 Patriots losing to the 9 or 10-6.
I don't think that's would nearly be as crazy. Not nearly.
How?
Because the Giants were the hottest team in the league at the time.
They were 10-6.
Right, but what did they do to get there? They went on that crazy run where they didn't lose like 9 games in a row. They were pretty much dead in the water, and then they went on that roll.
The NFC Championship game went to overtime, and if it wasn't for Brett Favre's stupid pass interception, that game would have been the Packers.
And not only that, but Eli Manning was still a really good quarterback, and the Giants had a great pass rush. A great pass rush. And that cannot be overstated.
I'm going to debate that, but whatever. We're not getting into that.
You can debate it all you want, and you'll be wrong. 100%.
How come I'm always wrong and you're always right? Why is that?
I don't know. That's just how the world works sometimes. I have no idea.
Oh, yeah. Does it hurt your back to kiss your own ass like that?
No.
Well, I know. It's pretty athletic of you. But you know what we can both agree on?
Flexible.
It's weird. Anyways, you know what we can both agree on is what the best place to find audio books is. And that is Audible. Right now, isn't it great if we listen more? Listening to audiobooks inspires us, motivates us, even brings us closer. And then there's no better place to listen than Audible. Audible has the largest selection of audiobooks on the planet. And now, Audible members get more than ever before. Each month, they get 3 titles of their choice, an audiobook, 2 Audible original titles, and fitness programs that they can't get anywhere else. There's never been a better time to experience Audible. Try it free for 30 days by visiting audible.com/GSMCbook or by texting the code GSMCbook to 500500. Once again, to get this great 30-day trial, it is audible.com/GSMCbook or texting the code GSMCbook to 500500.
What happens to your decision-making when you drink? Well, after one drink, you feel confident. A few more, and calling your ex at 1 a.m. seems like a great idea. And you're pretty sure the secret to a great taco is 4-day-old macaroni. The bottom line, drunk you doesn't make great decisions. So you're risking a DUI or worse if you count on him to get you home. Plan before you party. Get home safe. Brought to you by Washington.
Welcome back, everyone, to the GSMC Football Podcast. We finished talking about the teams that are currently in the playoffs right now. But let's look at the teams that are outside the playoffs looking in that still have a chance to make the playoffs.
Let's do it.
We have percentages also for fun. We'll start with the AFC. Indianapolis has a 35% chance of making the playoffs. Tennessee with 46%. Miami with 5%. And Cleveland with less than 1%.
Yeah, Cleveland's done.
Well, technically they're not. Mathematically, they're not yet. It's unlikely, absolutely. Totally, probably 99.99% not going to happen. But there is a 0.1% chance it could.
There is.
Or in my case, 0.01.
Yeah, they're out. So what are the other teams? The Colts and who else?
Tennessee Titans and Miami Dolphins. Do you see any of these teams?
I think the Colts.
Okay. Well, you answered my question before I can even say it.
Yeah, I think the Colts have the best chance of those three. I would say that for sure. They're just the better football team. And, they play the Giants, and they do play the Titans, which is going to be an interesting end of the season game between the Titans and the Colts. The Titans play the Redskins, though, so it's not out of the ordinary, or it's not entirely impossible for them. I'm envisioning the Colts and Titans being a playoff game, right? Like a default playoff game, and I just don't see the Titans winning that game.
Well, we said the same thing when they played the Chiefs when they were down 21-0.
The Colts destroyed the Titans when they played just a few weeks ago. I would expect a lot of the same.
That was a little bit of a revenge game, in all honesty. But Derrick Henry hasn't played extremely well. That might be the key for this.
Yeah. I would be shocked if the Titans...
Well, I was shocked. I was shocked last year the Titans won against the Chiefs in the wild card game when they were down 21-0.
Maybe.
Miami with 5%. If they make the playoffs, probably not going to happen. But if they do you see a miracle run in the Florida state? Whatever that state's called? What's the nickname of that?
The Sunshine State.
Is that what it's called?
Florida.
Okay.
Yep. That would be the
There's actually a scene in Office where he's like, I'm going to Colorado, and then Will Ferrell's like, oh, the Sunshine State. And then I was thinking, like, that's not right.
Nope. That would not be Colorado, no. That would not. What I see happening is I see the Colts getting the last playoff spot and the Ravens are out. That's what I see.
Okay.
Colts, if they win their last two games, I think they're in. The Ravens play the Chargers this week, and that's going to be a tough game.
That is going to be a statement game for both teams. Who's going to be the dangerous team going into the playoffs? Is it going to be the Baltimore Ravens, or is it going to be the Los Angeles Chargers? And it's obviously right now the Los Angeles Chargers is the choice to pick. But right now, I think the Ravens have a chance to play upset and become a dangerous team going into the playoffs if they win this game.
If the Ravens lose this game, though, they're probably behind the Colts and the Titans going into the final week. And guess what? That would mean that they would be out. And why would that? Why would they be out? Because if the Colts and the Titans both win this game, one of them's going to win the final game because they play each other.
Right.
So the Ravens basically have to win out. I know that
they are the sixth seed, so the bottom seed in the AFC.
But they have to win out. Like, they have the most pressure, right? Because they don't get to play one of those teams.
The Chargers don't need to worry. They already clinched with their 11-3 record.
But the Chargers are trying to get home field advantage. They're trying to win their division.
And that is why they're going to play their hardest.
Ravens' last two games are the Chargers and the Browns. Those are not easy games. They definitely have the hardest.
Isn't it crazy to think when you play the Browns, it's not crazy?
I mean, no. They're a divisional game anyways, but, I mean, when you look at the Colts and the Titans, they play the Giants and the Redskins respectively. Like, they should win those games. So,
yeah, this is going to be a very interesting situation to say the least. I love this time in football. And one of the things you love is just the outcomes. Every game has a meaning. Everything's important. This is when the Red Zone channel is really, really valuable.
So, yeah, I don't know. I think that we're going to see a good Ravens team, but a Ravens team that's going to be watching the playoffs instead of participating. But we have 2 more weeks.
It's kind of crazy to think the number 1 defense in the league will not be in the playoffs, most likely.
Yeah. If their offense is
crazy how things happen.
Their offense is going to have to show up against the Chargers.
So is Joe Flacco done with the Ravens, you think, after the season?
I believe so.
I think so, too. Everyone's like, this guy is elite. I never thought that. Even when he won a Super Bowl, I never thought he was elite.
So let's go to the NFC. What does the playoff percentages look like over there?
Well, I'll tell you, if you ask nicely.
Okay.
Just say please.
Please?
Thank you. That's all I was asking. Please
That's
is a
weird.
courtesy. Anyways, Washington has a 16% chance. Carolina has a 6% chance. And Philadelphia has a 37% chance. The defending Super Bowl champions. So Carolina, so technically Carolina can still make the playoffs.
Carolina's out.
Yeah, they're done. So Washington and Philadelphia still they're the only 2 teams left in the NFC that can make a playoff spot. But they need, I believe they would need, I don't know.
So what are the
Minnesota
percentages for, say those again for.
Washington is 16% and Philadelphia is 37%.
What about Minnesota? What are they at?
They are at the 6th seed at the moment.
Right, but what is their percentage of making it?
Oh, I only have percentages for teams that are outside the playoffs looking in.
Gotcha. Okay. Washington's not making the playoffs.
No, they're not.
Say what you want.
It's a shame, really.
They play the Titans and the Eagles. I don't think they're going to win either one of those games. Maybe they win one, but they would have to win 2. So that's not happening. Minnesota, I've been saying that they're going to make the playoffs. And they play the Lions. They do play the Bears in their last 2 games.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just not sure. The Bears game is interesting, though, because the Bears game could actually end up being a game that the Bears aren't playing to win because they might not be playing for any positioning whatsoever. We don't know that to be true, but it could happen. Seattle's in. I'd say it's between Philadelphia and Minnesota at this point. Minnesota really wanted the Rams to win the other night. Really, really bad. It would have made their season a lot easier.
Definitely.
But it did not happen. I'm wondering, though. I think it's going to be the way it is. I don't see Philadelphia making it.
Yeah, I can't believe I'm saying that, but you're right.
I know that
I know they have Nick Foles,
but
logically, I don't see it happening either.
I think there's more intrigue in the AFC at this point, honestly.
Yes.
Anyways, what do you say we take a break?
Yes, we should take a break. When we get back, we'll talk any other news we need to talk about the NFL, football, or anything like that. We'll be right back. Rad for this.
Check out the show built around the women of MMA. From the UFC to the extreme cage fighting, we got the fights covered.
Listen.
It's the Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast. The latest news of upcoming fights, discussions of previous matches. Join us as we talk to and about the biggest names in women's mixed martial arts, past, present, and future. When it's the women's fight game, you know where to listen to. The Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast.
Welcome back to the final segment of the GSMC Football Podcast. The last things we want to talk about is also one of them is Pete Carroll complaining about Levi Stadium's field conditions, saying they were very poor after their overtime loss to the 49ers. What are your thoughts on his comments?
I feel like whenever they win, Pete Carroll is just always positive and fun. and things like that. And then when they lose, it's like the opposite, and he's very emotional. I see a coach here that he doesn't take losing well. That's for sure.
Well, I don't think anyone takes losing well. But do you think
he doesn't take it in stride, is what I'm saying.
I see. He comes up with excuses? Is that what you're implying?
Absolutely. I mean, and listen to their players after that game against the 49ers. It was the penalties. It was the refs. It was the field.
Are you sure that wasn't the fan base?
No, it was the players. It was Shaquille Griffin, first and foremost, talking about the pass interference call on him, and he knew it was coming, quote unquote, because the officials have been against them all day. They committed 14 penalties. Multiple players are talking about it. It is what it is, and it all starts from the head coach, right? Like, that's kind of the persona that he has, so it makes it easy for his players to do the same.
Yeah, well, I'm not gonna lie. There's been more than his comments about the field conditions at Levi's Stadium. I get that, but
who cares? Every team's got field conditions, especially this time of year.
Yeah, it's winter time.
Like, look at the game last night. Carolina had field conditions.
This is true.
This is funny, right? Like, how about that Green Bay Chicago game the other day? How are the field conditions there?
Great.
What about that game last year between who did the Bills play where LaShawn McCoy ran that touchdown in 3 feet of snow?
Oh gosh, I think it was Detroit, wasn't it?
It might have been. How are the field conditions that day?
You think you would have complained like it was snowing too much?
I actually was kind of surprised they played that football game. I'm not gonna lie, because
it was Colts. It was the Colts team with the blue. Basically.
It wasn't even a football game.
It was kids playing in the snow. It was a pickup game in the snow. You know, when you get like everyone, it's coming down in huge amounts of snowflakes, and everyone's like, "Let's go out there. We're playing football," because playing in the snow is probably playing football in the snow is probably the most fun you can have.
I still to this day.
Have you ever done that?
I've never played football in the snow.
I've always wanted to play football in the snow. It looks like so much fun. We live in a place that does not have
fun.
snow.
It looks fun, but then again, I hate the cold. So
I hate the cold also, but I don't know. Playing football in the snow sounds like the best thing ever.
Yeah, maybe. It seems like it would hurt.
It's snow.
Ice is really it's not.
It's powder. Like just
so
playing
you
in
ever
the powder.
go snowboarding and fall down?
No, but when you go into like mountains and stuff, that's not soft. Like I'm saying, like in a soft powdered area where it hasn't been touched.
But you're telling me like a cold NFL field is going to be soft and fluffy?
Well, that game with the Bills and Colts looked pretty soft and fluffy.
Yeah, I'm assuming they were a little sore from falling on that.
I guarantee you they had the best time ever, though.
If you win, I think you have a good time. If you lose, I think it's the worst day, to be honest with you, playing in those kind of conditions where you can't even throw a simple 5-yard pass, It's like we're trying to play professional football. It's like we're playing against the elements here. It was definitely entertaining, I'll tell you that. I loved watching it. I was seriously surprised they played that game. I was definitely surprised. I thought the NFL would have been like, no, we can't play this game.
NFL is one of those things like football is one of those games where you play in any kind of weather. Except for like lightning.
Except for, thunder and lightning.
Or it can actually harm you. Snow can't really harm you unless you're in an avalanche.
I mean, at some point, you can't play a football game, even if it's just rain or snow.
It's not entirely true.
Yeah, I don't know.
We've seen some pouring rain games and snowy games, and where it's like you can't see anything.
If there's like a monsoon going on, they're not going to play the game.
Actually, that happened in the 79
They've
season.
canceled games. They canceled the first game of the NFL season last year.
Yeah, well, that was a hurricane, dude.
Yeah, hurricane-like conditions, right?
I'm talking about. I've seen a team play in a monsoon.
Oh yeah,
Tampa Bay and Kansas City in 1979.
You saw it.
I watched the game. I didn't watch it live, but I watched it.
Tampa Bay and Kansas City. That was in Florida.
It was legitimately raining so badly that there was it would look like a waterfall fountain on the stairs. So they're like seating.
That's funny. Yeah, they wouldn't do that today. That's crazy though. I'd like to see that. That'd be fun. I remember a couple years ago Notre Dame played, I want to say, Maryland, and it was really rainy. It was terrible. It It was insane conditions. Anyways, how about Eric Reed? You want to talk about him and his drug tests?
Yeah, he had his 7th drug test in, 2 months?
That's a lot.
That's not random anymore.
So are they out to get him or what?
I don't know what the deal is, but it feels a little suspicious, doesn't it? Something's off.
That's a lot, man. That seems like he's definitely, it's not random at that point. 7 times. I mean, I thought like an NFL player got randomly drug tested on average like twice a year or something like that. 7 seems a little much.
7 is too much. Mm-hmm. Regardless of who you are, even if you've been busted, 7, that's not, you can't say that's what's the word? You can't say that's random anymore.
Right.